Anna walked slowly down the dim and quiet street, her worn shoes pressing against the cracked pavement as the cool night air wrapped around her. She clutched a small bag close to her chest, the only thing she had left in the world, filled with nothing more than a change of clothes, a half-empty water bottle, and a folded picture she could not bring herself to throw away. Just a few months ago, she had a job that paid the bills, a small apartment with warm lights and friends who used to laugh with her. But one by one those pieces of her life had slipped away, leaving her with nothing but memories. Now the city that once felt alive seemed empty, every passing car rushing by without a glance, every window glowing with comfort that no longer belonged to her. The silence around her was heavy, almost as if the world itself had forgotten she existed, and though she tried to walk with her head high, her shoulders sagged under the weight of despair. She wondered how it had all changed so quickly, how a stable life had turned into endless nights of wandering with no place to call home. The streets stretched endlessly ahead of her, lit only by broken street lamps and the occasional flicker of neon signs, and each shadow seemed to whisper that she didn't belong anywhere anymore. Her stomach growled, reminding her that she had not eaten since yesterday. But she pushed the thought aside because hunger was now just another part of her daily life. A cold wind blew, making her shiver, yet she tightened her grip on the bag, as though it held not only her belongings but the last fragile piece of hope she was unwilling to let go of. As she passed an old shop with its shutters closed, she paused, listening to the faint hum of electricity and the sound of her own breathing. For a moment, she thought she heard footsteps behind her, but when she turned, the street was empty, only shadows moving with the sway of trees. Her heart beat faster, fear mixing with loneliness, and she quickened her pace, though she knew there was nowhere specific she could go. The park at the end of the street would be her stop for the night, just another cold bench under the stars, but even that felt uncertain, as if the world might not let her rest there either. Still, she kept moving, each step heavy, her eyes scanning the road for any sign of safety, or perhaps a small light of kindness waiting ahead. Anna finally reached the small park at the edge of the street, her legs aching as though every step had stolen the last bit of her strength. She lowered herself onto the wooden bench, its surface rough and cold against her skin, but it was still a place to rest, and for now, that was enough. She pulled her thin jacket tighter, trying to shield herself from the wind that cut through the trees and rattled the dry leaves on the ground. Around her, people moved quickly, wrapped in warm coats, holding shopping bags, laughing with friends, or talking on their phones, yet none of them even glanced in her direction. To them she was invisible, just another figure sitting quietly in the shadows. Hunger gnawed at her insides, sharp and unkind. A pain she had grown used to, but never fully escaped. And though her body begged for food, her pride would not let her ask any more. Too many times she had been ignored, brushed aside, or met with cold stares, and tonight she had no more words left to try. She lowered her gaze to her lap, staring at her bag, as if it could somehow comfort her. And for a moment, she let herself sink into despair, wondering if this was how her life would always be: endless nights, empty days, and no one to care whether she stood or fell. The city lights blurred as her tired eyes filled with tears she didn't want to shed. But before she could hide her face, she noticed a movement in front of her. A shadow stretched across the ground, tall and steady, blocking the faint glow of the street lamp. Her breath caught in her throat, and she froze, unsure whether to look up or stay still. Was it just another passerby pausing to check their phone, or had someone actually stopped for her? The silence around the bench grew heavier, the sound of her heartbeat loud in her ears as the figure remained in place. Slowly, with a mix of fear and curiosity, Anna lifted her head. She could not yet see the face clearly, only the outline of a person standing close enough to notice her, but far enough to keep their intention hidden. For the first time in days, someone had broken the pattern of indifference, and though she didn't know why, a spark of suspense rose inside her chest. Who was this stranger, and why had they chosen to stop when the whole world had been walking past? Anna blinked against the dim light as the figure before her stepped closer, and in that moment, she finally saw the stranger's face, an older woman with gentle lines around her eyes, the kind that spoke of years filled with both struggles and laughter. The woman's gaze was steady, not harsh or curious like so many others who passed by, but soft, as though she truly wanted to see Anna, not just glance at her. Then came the voice, low and warm, carrying no judgment, only care. "Are you okay, dear?" The question was simple, yet it pierced through Anna's heart like a ray of light breaking through clouds. She opened her mouth, but no sound came. Shame held her tongue still, whispering that if she spoke the truth, she would be seen as weak, as broken. So she lowered her eyes again, hoping silence would end the moment, but the woman didn't move. She waited, patient and calm, as though she had all the time in the world. Anna's chest tightened with the weight of unspoken words, until, almost against her will, a whisper escaped. "I have nothing left." Her voice trembled, barely audible, but it was real, and once spoken. It felt as though a burden had slipped from her shoulders. For a moment, Anna feared the woman would step back like so many others had, uncomfortable with the rawness of her honesty. But instead, the stranger slowly sat down beside her on the cold bench. The space that had felt so empty seconds before was now filled with a quiet presence that carried comfort. The older woman did not rush to speak again, and that silence felt different, gentle, safe, almost as if she was saying without words that Anna's pain did not scare her away. The park still hummed with the sounds of footsteps, distant traffic, and rustling leaves. But Anna felt as though the world had narrowed to this bench, this moment, this unexpected kindness. Suspense filled her thoughts. Who was this woman, and why did she care when no one else had? Anna turned slightly, her eyes searching the stranger's face for answers, but all she found was a calm smile and eyes that shone with something she had nearly forgotten existed. For the first time in what felt like forever, Anna's heart stirred with a fragile spark of hope, though she dared not believe it yet. The woman finally spoke again, her voice carrying the same calm warmth as before, and she introduced herself as Grace, a name that seemed to suit her perfectly. Anna hesitated, her body stiff with caution, but when Grace gently suggested they walk together to a small cafe nearby, something inside Anna urged her to follow. The streets were quiet, lit by scattered lamps, and Anna walked a step behind, clutching her bag, as if afraid this kindness might vanish at any second. Suspense swirled in her heart. Why was this stranger helping her? Was it pity, or something else? When they entered the cafe, the soft glow of yellow lights and the smell of freshly baked bread wrapped around Anna like a blanket. The clinking of cups and the low hum of voices felt almost unreal after so many nights of silence. Grace led her to a corner table and ordered food without asking questions, as if she already knew what Anna needed most. When the steaming plate was placed in front of her, Anna stared at it, her hands trembling, because it had been days since she had eaten more than scraps. Slowly, she lifted the first bite, and the taste was so warm, so comforting, that she could not hold back the tears pressing at her eyes. One by one they fell, dropping onto the table as her chest shook with a mix of relief and sadness. She quickly wiped her face, embarrassed, but Grace only smiled, her expression steady, carrying no judgment, only understanding. "It's all right," she said softly. "Sometimes tears are the first step to healing." Those words struck Anna deeply, as if they had been waiting all this time to be spoken. She tried to thank her, but her voice cracked, and instead, she lowered her head, focusing on the food as though it might keep her steady. Grace did not push her to speak. She simply sat with her, sipping tea and letting the silence stretch in a way that felt comforting instead of heavy. For the first time in what felt like forever, Anna felt seen, felt human again. The cafe's warmth surrounded her, but it was not just the food or the shelter that touched her. was the presence of a woman who had chosen to sit beside her when the rest of the world had walked away. Anna wondered what had brought Grace to that park bench, what had made her stop, and the question lingered in her mind as she continued to eat. The suspense of not knowing was mixed with the quiet hope that perhaps this night was not just another passing shadow, but the beginning of something she never thought she would find, again kindness that could change her story. When Anna finished her meal, she sat back with a mixture of relief and unease, her body no longer aching with hunger, but her heart still caught between gratitude and fear. Grace.com, as ever, placed her hand lightly on the table and asked the question that made Anna freeze. Would you like a place to sleep tonight? For a moment, Anna's breath caught in her throat. She had grown so used to cold benches, empty alleys, and restless nights under the open sky that the idea of a bed felt almost impossible. Suspense filled her thoughts. What if this offer was too good to be true? What if trusting this woman left her hurt again? She hesitated, her fingers tightening on her small bag, afraid that saying yes would make her a burden, afraid that kindness like this had limits. Yet Grace's steady eyes held no impatience, only quiet insistence, and her gentle words carried a certainty Anna could not ignore. You don't have to worry. It's just for the night, and I'd be glad to help. The firmness in her tone left no room for doubt, and though Anna's voice shook when she whispered her agreement, she allowed herself to follow. They left the cafe, the streets quieter now, and Anna walked in silence, each step echoing with questions. Who was Grace, and why was she helping a stranger? Suspense hung in the air as they arrived at a small but welcoming house tucked away on a quiet lane. Grace unlocked the door, the warm glow of light spilling into the night, and led Anna inside. The house smelled faintly of lavender and old books, the air calm, carrying none of the harshness of the world outside. Grace guided her to a small guest room, simple but clean, with a neatly made bed, a soft blanket folded at the edge, and a window that looked out onto a quiet garden. Anna stood at the doorway for a long moment, almost afraid to step in, as if the room might vanish if she touched it. She whispered a shaky thank you, her throat tight with emotion, and Grace simply smiled, wishing her a good night before leaving her to rest. Anna set her bag gently on the floor and lowered herself onto the bed. The softness strange after so many nights of hard benches and cold ground. Her body sank into the mattress, her eyes closing almost instantly, and for the first time in weeks, she did not wake to the chill of the night or the sound of strangers passing. Instead, she slept deeply, peacefully, her dreams touched with the faint hope that maybe this was not just chance, but the beginning of something she had long believed lost. The morning sunlight crept gently into the small guest room, painting the walls with a soft golden glow that Anna had not woken to in what felt like forever. For a moment, as her eyes opened, she forgot where she was, expecting to find herself still on a cold bench under the open sky, but the warmth of the blanket and the quiet comfort of the room reminded her that last night had been real. She rose slowly, smoothing the bed almost out of habit, her heart uncertain about what awaited her beyond the door. In the kitchen, Grace was already there, the smell of tea and fresh bread filling the air, and she greeted Anna with a smile that carried no trace of pity, only genuine welcome. They sat across from each other, and after a few quiet moments, Grace spoke gently, encouraging Anna to share her story. At first, Anna hesitated, her hands twisting together, her voice faltering with the weight of memories she had kept locked away. But Grace's calm patience slowly opened the door to her heart. Words tumbled out: how she had lost her job, how the rent became too much, how friends drifted away when she had nothing left to give, and how the streets had become both her prison and her shelter. She spoke of her fears, her loneliness, but also the dreams she once had, dreams she had buried under the weight of survival. Grace listened without interruption, her eyes steady, her presence quiet but strong, and when Anna finished, expecting silence or judgment, Grace instead reminded her that her struggles did not define who she was or what she could become. The words settled into Anna's chest like embers, small sparks of hope that had long been smothered. Grace leaned forward then, her tone lighter yet filled with purpose, and told Anna she might know someone who could help a friend who owned a local bookstore and was looking for someone reliable to lend a hand. The idea felt almost unreal to Anna, too fragile to believe. Yet it stirred something within her that had been asleep for too long. Could she really begin again? Suspense lingered in her thoughts, a mix of fear and longing. But Grace's certainty gave the moment weight, as though the future might truly hold more than endless nights of despair. Anna's heart beat faster, not from dread this time, but from the possibility that maybe, just maybe, this was the first step toward a life she thought had been stolen from her forever. With Grace's words still echoing in her mind, Anna found herself standing nervously outside the small bookstore the next morning, her hands gripping the strap of her bag as if it could steady her shaking heart. The sign above the door was simple, almost hidden by vines, and through the glass she could see shelves stacked high with books that seemed to whisper stories of their own. For a long moment, she considered turning back, afraid of rejection, afraid that this fragile thread of hope might snap the moment she stepped inside. But then she remembered Grace's smile, the way she had spoken with certainty that Anna could start again, and with a deep breath she pushed the door open. A little bell chimed above her, and the warm smell of paper and ink surrounded her, instantly different from the cold air outside. Behind the counter stood a man in his 50s, with silver hair and kind eyes that lit up when he saw her. "You must be Anna," he said warmly, as if he had been expecting her. And before she could stumble over her words, he gestured her in. Suspense filled her chest. Would he ask for references she didn't have, or question her about her past? But instead, he simply asked if she was willing to try, if she was ready to be part of this quiet little world of books. Shocked by his trust, Anna nodded, her voice catching as she whispered yes. He guided her around, showing her where to stack new arrivals, how to sort sections, and even how to handle the register, each instruction given with patience that made her feel safe. The customers who wandered in greeted her kindly, some with smiles, others with gentle curiosity, and for the first time in a long while, she felt like she belonged somewhere. As she moved between the shelves, touching the spines of books filled with stories of courage, love, and hope, Anna felt something stir inside her, a spark she thought had died long ago. She realized she was not just surviving anymore. She was standing, learning, and slowly beginning again. The suspense of whether she could truly rebuild her life still lingered in her heart, but it was no longer the fear of falling. It was the mystery of what could come next. For the first time in weeks, Anna's steps felt lighter, her hands steadier, and she began to believe that maybe, just maybe, she was capable of standing again. Weeks passed, and each day carried Anna further from the shadows of her past into a life she never thought she would have again. The bookstore became her safe place, its quiet aisles and friendly faces slowly stitching together the pieces of her broken spirit. The work was simple but meaningful, and with every task she completed, Anna felt stronger, as if she was proving to herself that she could still stand tall. The pay was modest, but it was enough to give her what she needed most, a small apartment of her own. One evening, as she stood in the middle of that little space, surrounded by second-hand furniture and walls still bare, she felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. It wasn't grand, but it was hers, a place where she could close the door and know she was safe. Suspense lingered in her heart as she thought back to the night on the park bench, the night when she had truly believed her story was over. What would have happened if Grace had not stopped? What if she had been left in the dark a little longer? The thought sent a shiver through her, because she knew that a single moment of compassion had changed everything. Grace had not only offered her food and shelter, but something deeper she had seen worth in Anna when Anna could not see it herself. And now, standing there with a roof over her head, a steady job, and the beginnings of a future, Anna realized the power of that one act of kindness. It had rewritten her life, guiding her from despair into hope, from loneliness into connection. The room was quiet, but her heart was full, and she understood something she would carry forever, that even in the darkest moments, a single light, no matter how small, could push back the night. Compassion, freely given, had not only saved her, but taught her that she too could one day be that light for someone else. As Anna laid down to rest, she closed her eyes with a smile, no longer haunted by fear, but lifted by the knowledge that her story was no longer one of loss, but of renewal, born from the simple, yet powerful choice of kindness.